if you have a website out there, you will be impacted by this update. Right now, we're going to break into a discussion about the Google Web Core Vitals update that is happening this month or next?
No, it's June.
Happening in June 2021. So what we're hoping you're going to get out of this conversation is further education on what the Google Core update is and what you can do on your website today to prepare yourself for that update. What is this Google Core Web Vitals update and why is it so important?
Yeah, so this core update is about, the performance of your site, the page speed, the kind of look on mobile, how it transitions into responsiveness. The big thing about it is Google has always had it in the back of the algorithm, like looking at the page speed and user experience. But this new update is now going to make it a really big factor for companies in terms of, is your website loading fast enough? Is the user getting what they need from the website? So Google are going to be looking at all that stuff in the new update. And you're definitely going to want to have your website up to date with all that stuff.
So one of the things that Google is focusing on with this update is the overall page experience.
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean? And I mean, obviously it's important because Google wants users to have a good experience, but what exactly is page experience?
Yeah, so page experience is, if a site's going to load 5 seconds to show you something, most people online right now do not have that attention span to wait 5 seconds for a page to load. So what Google wants to see is that your site's loading as fast as possible. So ideally under 1 second, because you want that instant gratification of seeing what you're looking for, which is why you have stuff like AMP. When you read a news article, they have something called AMP installed to accelerate the speed of their news articles that shows on Google. So now as a business, you're going to have to make sure your website is loading at high speed for that user experience, to be good.
Yeah, one of the things, and I like to pull in social because I'm more social is my kind of base and my understanding, but this has been something with, at least on Facebook for a while, that Facebook audits that post-Facebook experience. So if a user clicks on your Facebook ad or post or Instagram ad or post and goes to your website and that website takes too long to load, it gives signals back to Facebook that it's a bad user experience and it's going to charge you more for those ads or show your ad or post to less people. So even Google's doing it now on the page experience and factoring that in now, but Facebook's been doing this already for a while, which is even more of a reason for you to pay attention to it and update your website accordingly.
Well, I think the other big thing is it's not just about page speed. It's about, if a user comes to your site and you have a pop-up that you can't close and it's a bad experience for the user, even that's a negative factor in the Core Vitals update. Like you don't want intrusive stuff on your website that is causing a bad experience.
That's a great point. And that is something that a lot of you out there might have a pop-up on your website, subscribe to my email list, or, pop up for some COVID, even a COVID update. It's still a pop-up and it still might be considered intrusive by Google. So you might just want to cut out those pop-ups and keep it a clean user experience. So the user doesn't have to sit there trying to X out or create a possibility of them bouncing off of your site, which is leaving your site immediately after they visit it. Now, there are a few factors into the Core Web Vitals update that we're going to get into, kind of geek out a little bit here. But the first one is loading it's called LCP, largest contentful paint. You know what that is?
Yeah.
I don't.
So this is actually a factor you can get when you do Lighthouse. It's called Lighthouse. You inspect element on your website on Chrome and you can pick Lighthouse and it brings up all the page speed fixes you need to do. So this
Lighthouse is a platform.
It's a Google add-on.
A Google
add-on. So
it's
not even an add-on. So if you went to your Chrome, did inspect element, you could actually go to Lighthouse on there and click start audit basically. Right. So just go to casio.ca. Yeah.
Boom. Optimized.
And then inspect element. So that's a right click. And then inspect. So inspect. And then what you want to do is go to here, I believe.
Oh, they can't see they can't see that. That's crazy.
Oh no.
You guys can't see. Okay, we're inspecting the element right now. So if you right click on depending on what you're on, right click on the website, you can go to inspect element, and then where are you going to go?
Go here.
Network.
No, the little.
Oh yeah. Got it.
Lighthouse.
Oh, I see you. Okay, cool. You guys unfortunately can't see that.
I think if you did your whole
Oh, let me try this. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that. Here, let's do this, guys. Share screen.
there you
Boom.
go. Yeah.
There you go. You'll see it here now.
There we go.
Yeah, cool.
So then I don't know if you want to show again.
Yeah.
So you go down to this drop down here. Oh, it's not going to show.
Let's just
'cause
go
you already
exit.
got it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
here, guys. So we'll do it again. Sorry about that. So we'll show you guys again. So you got your website here. You right click on it. You're going to go to inspect. Okay, and you see all this mumble jumble language here.
Don't need to worry about
Don't need
that.
to worry about that. But you want to click on these little guys
Yeah.
here, and then Lighthouse.
And then generate report.
Ooh, generate report.
Then what it's going to do, it's going to audit
All right.
You want to do your site with Casio. We do it via desktop because the other thing we look at is analytics, right? So you want to see, because we're an SEO company, most people are finding us through desktop because they're most likely at work on their computer.
Yeah.
But if you're a realtor or whatever business you're in, it's most likely going to be mobile. So you want to audit the mobile version because you want the user experience to be best on the platform people are using to find your website.
So couldn't somebody just like pull up their mobile phone and check? Like, what's the big difference here?
Pull up their mobile.
Yeah, they can just look at the mobile phone and see how the experience is on their mobile phone.
Not really, because you have to do it on desktop to get this report.
Oh, got it. Just to get the report.
Yeah.
I got you.
So sometimes you're going to get performance 59, then sometimes it's going to be 100. But you want to look at the key metrics instead of the actual numbers at the top.
Mhm.
So here's the first contentful paint. So this is, largest and first contentful paint, which could be a little bit better. So you're auditing me right now. So if you see here, it's about your images on your website, right?
Mhm.
So when you load that website, you want the images to be, you want to kind of optimize the images so they're smaller. So you use something called Imageify to do that.
Mhm.
You want to cache the images. Preferably, you want to put it on a CDN, so they're not just hosted on your hosting.
Mhm.
And all this is about making it so when your website loads, the top part loads first and it goes down, and everything, when you load Casio, even with these scores, it's instant.
Yeah, it is pretty instant. Even if we click around here, let me just X out of this for a second. Like you click on it, like look how quickly that loads. Boom, boom. And our internet here is not the best. I'll tell you that right now. If you guys were in our session earlier with Wayne, I lost my internet connection. Not the best internet, but because of this update, look at this. Like it's like on demand, like boom.
Yeah.
There it is.
So what you're doing there is building that user experience. If that was going to take 5 seconds to load doing that, are you going to be a happy user browsing our website?
Oh, that's it. People need things instantly.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to wait around for a page to load. In those cases, you'll see if you run any ads, you'll just see you see this a lot, at least on Facebook, when people, there are a lot of clicks, but not so many landing page views. That means you have a lot of people clicking on your call to action button, but not as many people are waiting for that website to load.
Yeah.
That's a clear indication that your page speed's probably slow, or it's just not a good experience when they hit that button.
Yeah. So a lot of tactics we've used to improve this is using, it's called WP Rocket, which is caching. These are all simple WordPress plugins if you own a WordPress site. If you don't have a WordPress site, then you're going to be looking at doing it a little bit more technical. So WP Rocket is for caching, and what caching does is it stores all your website's features when you first visit. So then when you go to the second tab, it's already remembered a lot of the code in the back end to load it that instantly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why you're caching your website. And then the other big thing is, so there's a study, I think, to grab a user's attention on your website, you need to grab their attention in less than a second. So that's why, like on Casio on the homepage, you've got a lot of stuff happening where it's like, we work with these people, we do this, we do that, because you're trying to catch that user's attention so they don't click back and try and look for someone else. You want them to make sure that they know they've come there for what they search for.
There, that's a good point right there. It's making sure that above the fold section on your website, which is the area before somebody starts scrolling down, it does have that information, even making it clear and concise too as to what you do and the reasoning on why that person's on your website. Maybe it's a solution that you have to their problem. That needs to be clear and right there, even with that contact form. In most cases, you want to have it right there above the fold.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Now, next one for the vitals update is interactivity. First input delay, FID.
Yeah.
Okay. What is FID? What is first input delay?
So I don't actually know too much about that one. So.
All right. Oh, we kind of touched on it.
It's kind of like the thing with these is
this is
you
technical.
got LCP, FID, CLS. So all these kind of merge into one thing of what I'm talking about. So it's hard to like break down into FID, CLS, and LCT because it all kind of crunches together, if you know what I mean.
Got it. Okay, then let's get to the juicy part of this, which is how do you ensure your web page is ready for the introduction of the Google Core Web Vitals? How can you prepare your website for this?
Yeah.
What can people do?
So web hosting is first. So if you're a Canadian company and you're hosting on HostGator in the US, I'm not trying to call it HostGator, but HostGator is in Texas. It's an American company. Thousands of websites are on them servers. You're already fighting your page speed with that hosting company because it's a large hosting company that, you know, already is probably going to have a bad page speed for that person in Canada.
Right.
So, you know, even we were on Liquid Web in the past on a big server, and we moved our whole operation to a Canadian company with a Canadian server because the majority of our clients are Canadian. So it's about making sure your server's fast. That's the first key thing you want to do is make sure you have good hosting.
And that's, we did talk about that earlier today in the session with Wayne, but it's so important that your hosting company, I don't want to say so important, but it's very important that your hosting company is in the country where your target audience is, where most people are finding your website. Like Todd said, you know, if we were hosting over in the UK, well, that website needs to go over from somebody in Canada typing in a search, finding Merge Media, going over to our hosting company in UK, and then shooting it back here to serve that website. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're going to be able to get that done much quicker, and it's going to load much quicker with having a hosting.
The other interesting thing is outside of the core updates, hosting on a Canadian IP is actually technically an algorithmic factor because you're on a Canadian IP and you're a Canadian company. So you're giving more trust signals to Google that you're a Canadian.ca company targeting Canada.
If that makes sense. It does. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right. Again, we have a new dashboard we just launched, and we're doing our own hosting. It's on a Canadian server. So if anybody has any questions, reach out to any of us here at Merged who can help you get set up with our hosting. Okay. Awesome. Next, optimized content is still key.
Yeah. So it's not really related to. I guess it kind of is. So it's half and half. So you need your content. It's really technical term here. It's called TF-IDF.
TF-IDF.
Yeah. So what you're doing is it's part of an algorithm that looks at your content with the top 5 competitors. Well, you can look at the top 5 competitors, and what you're doing is you're researching their content to see how they're ranking in the top 5 with that content. And what you want to do is match that content. But the other key part is, which is why we are very big on our content writers in-house, is that you don't want that content just to be for SEO. You want that content for something, for a user experience. So you don't want to just, in the past, it used to be like add 5 keywords to here and you would just be writing for the algorithm. But you want to write for the user while also making the algorithm happy.
Got it. Right for the, yeah, definitely. Because that's, in the end of the day, that's creating a better user experience.
Exactly. Better user experience. And you're still targeting the right keywords in your content using that TF-IDF, which is what we use Surfer SEO for, which follows that whole algorithm.
Perfect. Here are some more tips on how you can prepare for the latest changes. So optimize web images with alt text. Okay, so a lot of those images that you upload to your website, you might not be filling in the alt text. That's super important for us as an SEO company, right? You want to ensure that you are including some of those keywords in there. Upgrade web hosting for faster speeds. We discussed that. Reserve space for loading larger elements. What does that mean?
Reserve space for loading. So that's this is I need Jan in here for this kind of stuff. But
Jan's our web design.
He's our web guy. So that would probably be a Jan question, and I'll get him to do that in a Q&A or something to give that information, because I rely on him on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Jan, and just to give you some insight, Jan, he quarterbacks the company that we partnered with last year, brought that under Merged as well, called 77 Webs. You'll see them as one of the sponsors of the event. So what Jan does, and we had a call yesterday with a client, and he was talking a lot about this. This client came in the door and was like, oh, I want to have this slider with all these different images and these nice, huge images. And Jan's like, no, you don't want to do that. sounds great and all. Looks nice, but it's not going to be optimized for page speed. It's going to slow down your website, and you're going to lose less users. So sometimes what I found with my limited knowledge in this stuff, and this is not my wheelhouse, is that there is a give and take with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
if you want all the bells and whistles, that's great, but it's going to provide a user experience that might not be.
You can have a site that looks amazing, does all this flashy stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still not going to have a user experience because that site's going to take 5 seconds to load. And again, people don't have that kind of time online. So.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. We got focused on having great SEO content. We discussed that. Obviously, ensure content is fresh and relevant. So putting up a fresh content on a consistent basis is so important. And a lot of people don't take the time to do that, or they put blogs. Their last blog was back in February and they haven't touched it since. You're doing yourself a disservice. So making sure.
It's quite funny because I think we're doing core vitals, but we're also just doing some general good SEO practice here for the algorithm.
Yeah.
So, fresh content is it's another part of the algorithm where Google looks at, it's basically fresh content part of the algorithm. And if you are not doing fresh content, blog posts and stuff like that is optimized into topics, then your site is looked at as being kind of dead and not active. So as part of the algorithm, if you're putting out fresh content, then Google will kind of see that as a good signal that you're active online and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's kind of how I did one of my affiliate sites in the past, is just pumping out content all the time, because Google's like, wow, this is an active site, we're going to really favor this one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I mean, that's one of the things that we're focused on in 2021 as a company, is creating more informational sites, aside from just the selling e-commerce or affiliate marketing sites, because we know that's in line with what Google's doing in 2021. And lastly, monitoring mobile friendliness. We talked about this in Wayne's session, but making sure your site is mobile friendly. We talked about it today with Lighthouse. Go on over there, give a check when you're on desktop. Check out how your site's performing on mobile, because it might be something you need fixing. If you have any questions, quick plug, you can reach out to us. We design websites, we do SEO, we do social, we all do all that stuff. So you can reach out to Jason at merged.ca or Todd at merged.ca.